Hello. It's been a while. Probably a long time. I don't know when the last mover mailbag was, but it seems like it's been a long time. So, hi, good morning. How are you? We are Fragile and doing the mover mailbag. It's been some time and I took a whole lot of time off from just posting in general. So, a lot going on behind the scenes, and I can't really, I don't know. It's not something I want to get into. So let's just talk about the future and what's going on now. Firefox. So everybody said, hey, why don't you do Firefox? So I did Firefox, Moveroon's movies with Gonky, and YouTube completely botched it. And by botched it, I mean the copyright stuff. So typically how it works is they have content ID. And if something triggers the content ID, it goes to the copyright holder, and that person then determines if they want to issue a takedown notice or whatever. And the content ID matched Firefox, both videos, because I broke it up into two parts. And so I did the accelerated dispute because I figured, it's fair use and it's going to work just like every other Moveroon's movies because of the way we do it, specifically for fair use. And the quote unquote rights holder decided to issue a copyright strike. And I say quote unquote because the person that was given to email was not Warner Brothers. It was wmprotection@gmail.com, which is a nonsense. I mean, Warner Brothers isn't using Gmail. So I did the dispute, which after they give you the takedown notice, you can do a dispute, which means they have to take you to court immediately. Like they've got 10 days to prove to YouTube that they have taken you to court and issued some kind of thing, which of course they're not going to do because it's nonsense. They don't have a valid claim on it because it's fair use. Well, the part two was, that just expired yesterday. But part one, YouTube said that I was abusing the counter notification process, and they didn't think I had sufficient rights to do it, even though it was the exact same movie, the exact same setup, the exact same reasoning. I don't know what they're smoking over there, but obviously. So as of right now, I still have a copyright strike. Part two is available to be published, but part one cannot. But they're both up on Rumble, so I might just switch everything from Moveroon's movies over to Rumble and Twitter because YouTube is not. I mean, it's too painful. I mean, it really is. They don't have a good grasp on copyright law and fair use, and the power goes to it's up to the claimant to make the decision, which is nonsense because they're going to say what they're going to say. So we'll see what happens with that. I might just I don't know. I may, because right now, since YouTube will not respond to me, and I'm like number 358 in the queue to even talk to them, I may just put part two up, and then people will be like, "Where's part one?" Or I may just say, "Hey, go to Rumble, publish it there, publish it on Twitter." Which this is live streaming on Twitter. I think this is the first time I'm trying to live stream. Live streaming right now on Twitter, Twitch, and the YouTube. So yeah, that's what happened. That's what's going on. Yeah, we didn't run it that bad. It was such a, I mean, I thought it was a good movie. I thought it was good. But when the email that you have to reply to is Gmail, I mean, it seems like a scam to me. So anyway, got a letter. Got a letter. It's for Gile. All the way from across the pond in the UK. They got a new king, I heard recently. That was on TV last weekend. So good for them. Seems a little like an expensive party, but who am I to judge? And this is okay. Thank you for your inspiration. Own the sky. Stay rad. G-Man. This is a vinyl record, right? Pretty cool. Strike Eagle. I don't know if I need to keep it in the. Is it worth more? Is it? Can you keep it in the wrapping paper? Written and produced by Strike Eagle, mastered by Von Herzog. Cool. That's awesome. Yeah. My son Alex says movers back. I don't know. We're okay. We're here. All right. So we do have a lot. I mean, that was the only piece of actual mail, but as you can imagine, we got a few mover mailbag things to read. So bear with me on that. Some good stuff, some really good stuff. Some nice people saying nice things. This is a super long email, so I'm going to skip around, but it's my Make Them Tell You No story from Tyler. And he said, "This is my story of how you and your motto, make them tell you no, can change lives. Fair warning, it's a long one." That's what she said. Back in summer of 2019, it was the height of COVID-19. I think anyway. Like many other college students, I'd been home for many months. Classes put online. During this time period, I came across your channel, which I've never known changed the course of my life completely. Grown up engrossed in aviation. Fast forward a few years when I was in high school. In high school? Oh my gosh, you're youngin'. Fire had me in aviation. It started to fade, and sound of jets over my house had become another noise to me. I still enjoyed aviation, but lost all passion flying in the military. I had come to the conclusion anything less than a 4.0 disqualified me from pursuing my ambition. 2018, I started college at my state's flagship university, which for anonymity, we're not going to talk about. And I was a normal college student. COVID happened. I was home, and then Make Them Tell You No. I finally saw that. It resonated with me, and I realized I'd done one of the few things you'd said not to do, which is self-eliminate. Remember that when the week with it, I remember, these are words, that within a week of hearing my words, I approached my dad and told him I wanted to join the Air Force ROTC and become a fighter pilot like I'd always given up on. The fire for aviation, once lost, had been relit. I'd gotten in touch with the Air Force ROTC cadre and enrolled in the program, but it was 3-year minimum. I was going in my junior year. I remember showing up on one of the first days, the first of which was integrity first, which would become important in the story. Medical clearance. During this program, I would be competing against cadets with twice as much or more experience, constant battle, people saying the lie, and for medical and to get medically qualified. But I'd done everything with total honesty and was disqualified. Spent the rest of the year in the program fighting for a waiver. It seemed like endless paperwork. I was even a conditional slot for the summer training on the account that should a waiver be granted, I'd be going to training. This was the first struggle I faced, but following Make Them Tell You No, I didn't give up. I had already saved up a large sum of money to pay for my PPL and started just before I received notification of waiver being denied. Luckily, due to hard work and persistence, the ROTC wing commander put in a recommendation to the Army ROTC program. Within a few weeks, I transferred. Now my aviation goals had shifted. I spent a year in the program, went to the Army's Cadet Summer Training Program, got my Class 1A flight physical done while I was there. During the first year, I was still getting flying time and got my PPL, following summer, juggling 2 majors, ROTC, and working as a freshman advisor. Senior year came along. I'd proven myself. I received the highest match rating with the AV basic branch. I received my second choice, Medical Service Corps, which has a select group of aeromedical evacuation aviators that I would be able to put in my package to compete for a position for. Put together what I believed would be an extremely competitive package because I could highlight my strengths in aviation. After months waiting, I received the call. I had been selected to be a medevac pilot in the Army. Just this past week, I raised my right hand, did my oath, and commissioned. I took the Make Them Tell You No to heart, and it changed my life. This December, I'll be heading to Fort Novosel, which is the old Fort Rucker, for flight school to learn to fly helicopters and time to be a medevac Black Hawk pilot. The motto changed my life and my entire philosophy on hard work, dedication, resilience toward my ambitions. In the end, I truly believe this is where I belong to fly. Everybody wants to do cool guy stuff and be a fast flyer, but there's always guys on the ground that need help. I do honestly believe that's where my puzzle piece had always fit. If you'd like to hear more, please let me know. Make Them Tell You No, respectfully, Tyler. So that's it, man. Grow where you're planted. That's a very common saying I've heard recently. That's awesome. I mean, that's really what it's about. It's resilience and persistence. That's it. That's how people accomplish their goals. You know, it's not about, no one has this easy straight line path. It always zigzags and then you end up where you're supposed to be. So really cool that it worked out for you. And I'm awesome. I'm humbled that, the channel was able to help you there. Let's look at the chat real quick. Breaking news. I saw this on the Twitter. So Ukraine Patriot air defense shot down a Su-34. So I saw on the Twitter that 4 Russian aircraft See, I didn't add an S there. Were shot down in the last 24 hours. 2 helicopters, I think a Su-34, maybe a Su-35, but there's no notice whether the Russians shot their own plane down by accident or the Ukrainians moved a Patriot defense system farther up. But 4 aircraft is quite a few. So there you go. Sorry. Got the sniffles this morning. Whoever you make them tell you no posters on my wall. I had a good reason to employ the motto. Good. Awesome. Anyway, so if anybody's on the Twitter, make a comment. I want to see if this works. But anyway, back to your emails. Let me remove that real quick because it's going to get stuck there. I'll forget. Hope to see more helicopter videos. Yep. So if you guys remember Daniel from Battlescar Motorsports, he has Pale Horse. And he and I flew on Wednesday. I took him out to see the track from the air. So that video will be coming up next week as well. Did you guys like the DCS stuff? It's hard to tell with DCS, right? Because so many people get angry, so many people get happy, and then you get the random trash talkers that, don't like DCS and don't like any of the video games, and then say that, I'm allegedly a fighter pilot and, all this stuff. And very weird. It just draws a very weird crowd. I want to see you go out to the range with Donut. I don't get invited. I'm not one of the cool kids. I do watch Donut's videos though, so I like his police breakdowns. I've done one police breakdown. The problem, so the issue with me doing police breakdowns, it's tough because like I start looking at that and I'm like, well, I still do law enforcement, so I don't want to create something that will then be used in court against me one day. That's the real fear of that. Not that I would say anything like illegal or unethical. It's just, people like to tear stuff apart. Yeah, I try to make DCS fun to watch. I haven't Twitch streamed a lot. I've been doing a lot of iRacing. So you see back here, this is my the Sparco wheel on the TSXW, and I got my A license. So I've been going out and racing. I raced last night. I didn't stream it because usually it's impromptu, but I guess I could. But last night it was Talladega Gen 4, and I made it. So kind of a racing incident early on. A dude opened a lane and then closed it, and I accidentally punted him. And worked my way back to the front. I got tied up in somebody else's wreck, but actually didn't damage much. I just went through the infield and recovered and went back from 18th all the way back up to first. And then on the very last lap, green, white, checkered, dude, for whatever reason, thought it was okay to go below the yellow line and got his nose up under me and wrecked me. So I went from first to 14th. So anyway, I lost my thread, but focusing and making them tell you no. I taught the friend helping me to adopt the motto too. We prevailed. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. There you go. All right, back to the emails because there really are some good ones. This one is from Jackson. Currently active duty stationed at Jaber. Is that Elmendorf? Up here in Alaska. Working on that would be Elmo. I found out about your channel about a year ago, and your message is so important to be heard. It has helped me overcome adversity and even change my opinion about adversity itself and to stop self-eliminating. Your message has inspired me so much to finish my PPL and apply to the Air Force Academy through the LEAD program to pursue my dream of becoming an Air Force pilot. I would love to fly, all caps, Fat Amy. Do you have any stories about crossing the pond? It would seem like such a fun experience. Also, how do top UPT graduates graduate at the top of their class? I assume everyone's working hard to study is just past flight experience. What is the differentiator? Good question. Pond crossings. So the longest I did, so to speak, was Honolulu to Dallas. And that's a ton of refueling because you always have to stay within a divert window to dry land, which there's not a lot of as you're crossing. So you're constantly topping off. We left. It was kind of crazy because we had to go to sleep at like 5 o'clock in the afternoon the day prior because we left the hotel at like midnight for like a 2 a.m. departure because you take off and the rule was you had to land before sunset, so you couldn't go through a sunrise and a sunset. So we had to get to Dallas in time for the sunset, and this was winterish time. So we took off. It was almost an 8-hour flight, and it's just keeping yourself occupied. The sun burning your retinas because you're flying right into it going east. Refueling a lot. I would watch movies. I had the old PSP. I had a PSP I'd watch movies on. I mean, this is the days before, you could put stuff on your cell phone. That's how I'm getting old here. But, stuff like that. I'd play the PSP. We talk on the aux radio, the backup radio, just to, play games, stuff like that. But word games, puzzles, any of that stuff. UPT graduates. So for the graduates at the top of their class, cooperate to graduate, man. You will do better helping and not worrying about graduating at the top of your class. Like, that's how you graduate top of your class. Everybody, I mean, yes, at the beginning, people with a ton of flight experience, they're going to do well right off the bat because, they've got that air sense and it's going to be easier. But eventually everything levels out. And what differentiates you from your classmates just boils down to work ethic and studying, knowing the boldface, knowing the ops limits, doing well in stand up, doing well on the tests. And then when you get in the flight, being prepared, showing up prepared, being able to answer questions in the brief, in the air, being humble and being able to accept the criticism and then fix it, because you're allowed to make mistakes. It's just you don't want to repeat the same mistake over and over and over. And what I found when I was in UPT was that by going with those that were struggling, helping people, I got better, because if you can teach it, you can do really well. The material really well. So it's really a cooperative effort to do well in pilot training. It's not this Top Gun, bravado, best of the best nonsense. It's really a team effort, because, at the end of the day, these are the first core group of friends you're going to have in your career. You don't want to be the guy that nobody wants to talk to you after. You want to be the guy that you're still talking to your buddies, years down the road, because, it's a small Air Force, so cooperate to graduate. That's what I'll say. Let's see here. Next. A lot of spam, a lot of advertisement offers. Let's see. Here you go. Here's a grow where you're planted story. My name is Tom. I'm a New Orleans native who made my living as a musician for the better part of 20 years before switching careers and going to med school. I wanted to touch base with you to thank you for the inspiration your How to Become a Fighter Pilot series offered me, and also for some parallel insights such as Grow Where You're Planted that have had a direct bearing on my career path. So in the interest of keeping things succinct, unlike the typical debrief, story is that I made a solid living as a musician until the wheels came off the industry in 2009. I've always wanted to be a doctor. All the doctors in my life, my father's a doctor in the New Orleans area, told me, do the music thing first because you'll never be able to come back to it. And it was a time at that point to make the jump and start my family around the same time. It took me 4 years to amass qualifications to apply for med school, and then took 3 years, several interviews before I could finally get into med school. Takeaway in that situation is, and there are details, but they're not mailbag linked, was that being told no wasn't permanent. Persistence was the key, and the folks who told me no, the folks that could tell me no, didn't flat say no, but not yet. I needed to continue to advance my resume and hang in there, and the door was finally open. Medical school was its own slog. It isn't seer, but it's grueling, and when I applied for residency slots, my scores were borderline for what I wanted to do. Various surgical fields, wound up having to do 2 years of extra research work to advance my resume and reapply. As it turned out, I landed a specialty that I did not think would allow me to do what I wanted to do until another friend in one of the surgical fields who teaches in the Northeast informed me about a program that takes people from the field I landed in to do ear, nose, and throat stuff. So here's where the grow where you're planted part. By growing where I landed, even though it was an unusual path to get to my goal, there is now a clear pathway with good membership to get me exactly what I wanted, some surgery on the patient population I want to work with. With persistence, a good attitude, and a willingness to work hard and well, things can resolve into a situation where one's strengths are brought to bear for the good of the group. I'm very proud to use your videos as references for the medical students I get to teach and hopefully train to be the leaders they need to become, and use them as motivation for finding their future calling within medicine. Both medicine and aviation are demanding, unforgiving pathways, but worth every second of it. You help provide me motivation in some of my darker times when I wasn't certain if I was going to get stuck doing something I really didn't want to do for the rest of my life. And I am grateful that I can pass that on to other rising professionals. So if you ever wonder if what you do as a YouTuber matters, yes, Mover, it totally does. I'm grateful for the work you've done as an aviator, as a teacher, and as a YouTube personality. I still laugh at the GTA videos. They're hilarious. And as you go through your career change, I'm here to tell you that it can work, it will work, and I'm firmly in your corner. Keep the faith, sir. Our hard time sets us up for moments of great triumph. I look forward to hearing about yours, as they're certainly coming. Thanks very much, Tom. Awesome. That is, again, humbling and inspiring. Yeah, I'm not good with compliments. You know, I'm not good with that, because I don't know. I appreciate it though. I mean, I'm glad it could help. You know, this channel really kind of meandered for a long time. You know, I didn't have hardly any subscribers when I first started, and it wasn't until I told the story of how I did it, how I became a fighter pilot, that the channel kind of got some views. And the literal title was How I Became a Fighter Pilot. And I was just doing that because of the Facebook crowd, you know, because of the people that were following me because I was an author. And they said, well, how did you get there where you are? And the thing is it resonated with people because, you know, I'm not an astronaut. You know, I wasn't a 4.0 student, quarterback of the football team, you know, super popular, super smart, none of that stuff. I didn't have perfect vision. No, I just a normal dude. That's it. I was just a normal guy. And a lot of people told me I couldn't do it and I would never do it. And I had an optometrist that said, you know, no chance will you ever be a professional pilot or a military pilot. You'll be lucky to fly a Cessna. And here I am. You know, I'm humbled and honored that it's now I'm able to share that with people and inspire them to find their own potential, because the external forces will always be the external forces. There are always going to be people that want to bring you down. There are always going to be people that want to drag you down to their level or prevent you from achieving more, because some of it's jealousy, some of it's just, you know, the human mind kind of gets stuck in its own traps, and it believes that, you know, if I can't do something, no one else should be able to do something, or if the norm is this, then there's no way to accomplish anything outside of that norm. And I think I'm a good example of the fact that, you know, if you just keep trying, there's a pretty good chance it's going to work out. So, but it's not easy. It's not always easy. I mean, you have to have a heck of a lot of resilience and a heck of a lot of persistence. You know, I went to one of the things with the sheriff's office I do, you know, is in criminal patrol, is now they're doing mental health first aid. And I went to an 8-hour class yesterday about, it's not two different things. It's first aid for mental health is really what it is, and how to deal with some of the mental health stuff. And I've talked about it on this channel. You know, I've had my own issues with, you know, being anxious or, you know, sadness and stuff because of the life events that just happen. And you see that what separates a lot of some of the mental health problems is resilience. You know, it's one thing if something bad happens and you deal with it and then you bounce back, right? That's the resiliency. But what leads to the bigger problems is when you don't, and when you get stuck, and then it becomes more than 4 weeks of being sad, or more than X amount of time of anxiety or avoiding certain situations and stuff. And that's what differentiates what's a real problem versus not. So the best thing to work on is resiliency, and being able to, you know, let the proverbial water off the duck's back, so that you can compartmentalize it and move on. And that will help you even in your fighter career, because, you know, people have asked in general, you know, how do you deal with emergencies? How do you deal with stuff like that? And it's because you don't think about it. You know, you're not sitting there in the jet, and that's what happened to me was the desync, right? But typically speaking, you get a firelight, your immediate response is not, oh God, I'm going to die. It's, okay, what's the boldface for fire and flight? And you apply the boldface, the immediate action items, the stuff you're supposed to do by memory. And then you go, okay, what has that led to? It's a lot of logical, if then, if then, if then. And then you get to the checklist and you go through the checklist, and then your wingman's backing you up. And then the SOF or the ODO or, Air Force or Navy, they're backing you up. There's never a time in there where it's like, stop, think about your own mortality. Think about, I'm going to die right now. It's, you are busy. Your mind doesn't have time to think about the what ifs. Your mind is now problem solving. And that is that compartmentalization, because, normally you'd be like, oh God, this is terrible. I can't panic, and that panic leads to fear, leads to, the deer in the headlights. So we train that out. But we don't do a good job of just resilience in everyday life. And when things start to look dark, how do we bounce back, and how do we deal with it piece by piece by piece by piece, so that it never adds up to one big thing that causes, a real bad problem. So super honored about that. That's really cool that it was able to help somebody. Okay, this next one, Warren says, if you have a moment, can you recommend the best flight simulator game and joystick on the market, or at least the ones that you could recommend? Flight simulator game. Oh boy, you're going to trigger some people by calling it a game, but it is a game. Military DCS, you got so many options you can do. The helicopter, I love the Huey, the Viper, Hornet, all that stuff. If you're just looking for just flying around, Microsoft Flight Sim, amazing, great graphics. As far as the stick, I would say I use the Warthog, the Thrustmaster Warthog. I think that's probably the best all around, product there. Let's see. Oh boy. Okay. My name's Peyton. I'm a college student studying with the goal of becoming an airline pilot. As you know, it's expensive to fly. My family and I know that it's cheaper to go through the military. I'm looking at flying for the Navy throughout the 8 years with the goal of flying fighter jets. Personally, for me, I hope to fly the Growler or Fat Amy. My words, not his. But any kind of jet would be awesome to fly. One big fear that I have is get the possibility of not making it through flight school and been stuck in the Navy for 8 years, and the result making the goal of an airline pilot much harder. I am an A and B student with no health issues and getting eye surgery for 20/20 vision, so I'm confident that I will at least make it to the program. Another worry is that the military it is the military, and if I have to fly in the Navy, I'll be on a carrier for a few months out of the year, away from from family, and when the time comes, my wife and kids. I would love to fly jets and get the experience through that. I think it's another hurdle for me to face. Not to make my email too lengthy, but I just listened to a few questions I have down below, so it'd be easier to find and answer if you don't mind taking a look. Lastly, I love your videos, and you've taught me a lot about how pilots function, execute their missions, helping me make my decision of going down the fighter pilot track. Okay. So, a lot of people have the first instinct of going, hey, kid, and I'm probably me too. I've said this before, your first goal, if you're going to do this, should be serving your country, because it's needs of the military. There's nothing guaranteed about flying it. It's not a joyride. It's not you are serving, you're basically signing a blank check up to and including your life in the defense of your country to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. So just using it as a stepping stone, that's one thing. There are better ways to go about the airline thing right now. So, but with that said, I understand, you kind of get ahead of yourself. So let me break that down before I get to your questions, and you may actually have this question anyway. First off, to answer your question about being gone a lot, yeah, you're going to be gone. Doesn't matter what you do, Air Force or Navy, you're going to be gone a lot. You can mitigate that, pick a reserve unit, pick a guard unit. Now you're deploying on whatever the 18-month cycles there are, or they have. But active duty Navy, yeah, you're going to be gone. Newsflash, though, as an airline pilot, you're going to be gone a lot too. You're not just there. You're not just home all the time, unless you're flying like Allegiant, where all you do is fly turns and you live in base. And that's a whole nother discussion about whether you live in base or whatever. But as an airline pilot, you're probably going to be gone 10, 12 days a month, depending on the airline and the work rules. So, whether you're gone for 6-month cruise or whatever. A lot of guys leave the airlines, they go get their seniority number, and then they go to a guard unit and take full-time orders so they can stay home with their families. So, I mean, it's not, there's no perfect answer to the, I don't want to be away from your family. I understand it. I don't like leaving my pups, the dogs, especially the 2 aging ones. It's tough. It's hard to do, but that is the job. That's why it pays the way it does. As far as using it as a stepping stone, I have said before, and this is an unpopular thing to say in today's world, because, the Air Force is like, 20-year career. I think staying for your initial commitment and then doing something else is perfectly valid. You get a 10-year commitment from the day you get your wings, which puts you at about 12 years in the military. That's about the time it stops getting fun. For the first 10 years, maybe a little less, you are flying. You're expected to be masters of your technical field. You're basically the warrant officers like the Army has. You're just flying and doing that stuff. When you hit that end of commitment, that's when you start talking about your field grade officer, your major, your 05, and you're starting to look at promotions, professional military education, staff tours, all that stuff. It is perfectly valid at this point to go, look, I'm just an operator. All I wanted to be was an operator. It's time to go do something else. Perfectly fine. You can go find a great career, if you're active duty, Air Guard, Reserve, or if you've already started in the Air Guard or Reserve, you can start there too. Probably leaning more towards Guard than Reserve in that case. But it's a valid thing to do because, that's just the trend of the careers. It's not for everybody to do a full 20-year thing. It's not for me. I'm not a staff guy. I am not do the PME and the papers and all that stuff. It's just, that's not ever something that's for me. I just like flying. I like flying and serving my country. That's all I've ever liked. It sucks not flying. It has sucked for the last, a little over a year. It sucked the 2 years where I couldn't fly between the Navy and the Air Force. But to your question, aside from the financial aspect, if my end goal is to become an airline pilot, would you suggest flying military or civilian to get there? In today's world, if you don't care about serving your country, I would just go straight to the airlines. There's so many ways to do it now. There's a hiring shortage, and a lot of these regionals are paying like a ton of money. Like some regionals are paying better than mainline. So yeah, financially, there's no question in my mind. If that's your goal, go straight to the airlines. But if service is your goal, if, defending your country is your goal, then there's no better way to do it, in my opinion, than flying fighters. Like, I would not trade a single moment that I've had flying these jets for any amount of money. You don't make a bunch of money, but the experience and you can't replace it. The people you meet, you just can't replace it. Not to get personal, oh boy, but how were your experiences in flying the military when it came to deployments and being away from loved ones such as girlfriend, wife? It's hard. It's difficult. My first non-graded flight was in Iraq. It was deployed, and I had big time separation anxiety, from my girlfriend at the time, from my dad. It was hard. It was tough. It wasn't easy. But when I look back at the flying that I did, I think it was, it meant something. And there was a lot to it that, it was an experience. It was a worthwhile experience. War is not obviously fun, but when you're with the people that you're with and, doing the mission and you feel like you're accomplishing something and protecting somebody on the ground, I think that there's a lot to that. If I am all medically and physically qualified and make it to jet training, can there still be a high possibility of risk that I might not make it through? Basically saying once I get past basic flight and to advanced training in jets as a program, tough. I think this is a generational thing. I've said this in meetings in the last couple of weeks about the Gen Z or whatever's after it is the most informed, but also the least informed, because what they'll do, and this is not a hit on you, Peyton. This is just me rambling like an old man. There's so much information, right? But then there's a lot of bad information, and then there's a lot of information that people will just take at face value and then say, well, I'm going to self-eliminate. And that's a good example is you don't, who cares? Just enjoy the ride, man. I mean, I get it. The what if, the what if, the what if, anything can happen in pilot training, like anything. I mean, from you are the number one and you go wherever you want to you struggle and then you overcome to you struggle and you don't make jets to, I mean, you get hurt to even you lose your life. I mean, it's not a high probability, but there is a probability, there's a chance. And to use that as a decision matrix, right? Of, hey, what happens if I get stuck? Well, then you just deal with it. You deal with it at the time. You don't allow that to, that is the, I'm not going to try because there's a chance it might not go my way. Well, life doesn't always go your way. A lot of times things just don't work out the way you thought they did. And you might end up like our previous friend who ended up in medevac and actually goes, hey, this is where I was supposed to be. I just didn't know it. So that's the grow where you're planted thing, right? Is yes, you might have this goal. You might think, hey, I'm going to be, this jet pilot. I'm going to be Maverick, whatever. But it turns out I'm better in this community and I'm actually happier here. And this, thank God, the whole country music song about sometimes I thank God for unanswered prayers, because you end up where you should have been, not where you necessarily wanted to be. So don't worry about this. Yeah, absolutely. Is it a possibility? Sure. You can get hurt during training. Something can happen during training where you can no longer be medically qualified. They find something. You wash out, you have a bad day, you have a bunch of bad days, whatever. But don't let that stop you. Don't let that be the thing that keeps you from doing what you want. I don't like the way now we take so much information and try to use it to keep us from doing cool things. If I decide to go down the path to fly Navy first, what would you suggest on prepare myself when it comes to both OCS and flight school? Make friends. Same thing I told the other guy. Make friends, help your bros, cooperate to graduate. That's it. That's it. Learn the bull phase, learn the ops limits, show up prepared. That's all you can do. That's all you can control. All right, let's do the chat. I think that's the last email, so there's probably a whole bunch of stuffs. Here we go. We're going to go way back. Back. Oh, cool. Tyler's my son. His mother and I are extremely proud of him. That's awesome. Kick ass. I'm proud of him too. That's really cool. Been following you for several years, like your straightforward views, served in Marines, law enforcement veteran, 18 years, fly DCS for a couple of years. Awesome. Do it. How hard would it be for you, Gonky and Wombat? Oh, God, there's Ward, Max, Afterburner, and some other pilots get together, have a ready room environment. That was actually the point of Gonky's channel. That's why it's called The Ready Room. Uh-oh. Did the audio? Was I Nordo? Son of a. Have I been talking and nobody's listening? I guess I should, that could be the what you call it. I mean, it could be the streaming thing. You guys hear me okay? That was a while ago. Hey, Mover, talk about how to ask for help. I was recently mentoring a group of college students on a project and weren't able to complete it because they didn't know how to ask me for help. Well, there you go. Bit laggy there. It could be the internet. Spectrum has failed me lately. Apparently, they're supposed to come out and fix the signal. So that's why I pushed this off to today. I was actually going to do this Wednesday, but I pushed this off. How does it feel after 8 hours? Well, at 40, it probably suck. I was 25, so I felt like a 25-year-old. If you had to choose advanced fighter jet and Army helicopter, which would be more fun? I don't know. I mean, they'd be fun in their own ways. I'd want to do both. All right, I'm going to try to catch up here. They didn't know how to manage up and manage my expectations when they got into trouble. They just introduced PIO and tell me about their problems and ask for help in time for it to do any good. Yeah, that's terrible. Okay, good evening. Sorry. I read Finney Flight, and we call our Blue Car Spectre. Awesome. Hey, read books, man. Read my books if you want to read the books. But by the way, just in case anybody was wondering, I have to say this, right? I don't have to say this, but I do say it because one of these days, you guys will hear the whole story. I don't want to talk about anything that'll mess up anything in the future, but one of these days we'll have a whole sit down. Yeah, that's exactly right. People who give in a doubt don't understand people who overcome it. Scotland. Awesome. I watched the King thing, and the Scottish people did not seem happy. Have I talked to Splint or Mace? I have talked to Splint. I talked to Splint. He and I are Instagram buddies. We share reels all day long. Mace, I have not talked to. I'm still in the military. I'm not flying. I've not flown since my Finny flight with Gonki. Thrustmaster is great. I have pedal, stick, and throttle. I know there's some other brands out there. Like I've got the VPC Warbird. There's some specialized stuff, but as far as like entry level, or I want some nice things and I don't want to mess with anything, Thrustmaster is awesome. Even this wheel, this isn't a direct drive wheel, but I think it's great. I think it feels realistic. I don't know about AI revisions. I hope that I for one welcome our AI overlords and hope that they are very nice to me. Ooh, Vipers. Cool. All right. Hey, the vinyl. Cool, man. Strike Eagle. It's awesome. It's really cool. I'm going to have to place it somewhere. Hey, Alec. What's up, man? Thanks for watching, dude. Is this stuff a factor? God, there's so many things that are a factor of the pilot shortage. I mean, one, it's a leadership thing. It's people that are going, look, you change the rules, you change everything, and we can go make more money in the airlines. It's a retention problem. Some of it's just we're not bringing in enough people so that we can be selective. It's a different time right now. There's just not like I said, there's a lot of information, but there's not a lot of good information, and people aren't making informed decisions. Let's see. Been following for a few years, still doing folds of honors. Sorry, I already read this one's. Good day from Australia. First time I've been awake for one of these. Well, good morning or good night, and thank you, Alan, for this. How is that a Gen Z thing? It's not the self elimination thing is a human thing. It doesn't matter what generation you is, but the Gen Z part specifically is the information. It's you've got the world at your fingertips. Like we're the smartest, dumbest group in the world because we've got everything, but we don't know what's true and what's not. We believe things that we shouldn't. And then the information is broken down into 30-second TikTok reels or TikTok, whatever TikTok is. Like it's like the channels are changing and you can't find the remote, the old ADD commercial. So I think this generation kind of moves on because of the shorter attention span driven by some of the social media stuff. I think we move on more quickly than previous, where it's like, I want to do this. I don't care what anybody else says. I'm going to keep trying. I'm going to keep trying. I'm going to keep trying. Look at the people that I've interviewed on this channel. A lot of them didn't, it wasn't easy, and they just kept persevering, and that's how they ended up where they are. I don't think there's an autobiography for me. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know. What if game is a mental pitfall that can really sabotage yourself if you let it? Yeah, you have to. I think you just have to embrace it. You have to embrace the what if and go, my dad, when he was in the Army Guard, his battalion was, it was come what may. And then when I went to the academy, we took that and, come what may, well, not the academy, the book. Come what may, I shall be victorious. And that's the thing is it's not what if, it's bring it on. I got this. Doesn't matter what happens. I'm going to keep trying. I will win. Remember Jeff Gordon refused to lose. We might not win, but we're not going to beat ourselves. Oh boy. I mean, I guess I don't think that, when I was a teenager on AOL, we didn't really have a lot of information. We didn't have Twitter and TikTok. Specific time of year, you're talking airlines, summertime. Summertime is the busy season and holidays, but summertime. Oh, here we go. Okay, audio is okay. Not answering anything about missiles ever. I don't want to go to jail. Sorry to repeat one of my chats. Hear you, Lima Charlie. Sorry. I always get behind on the chat, and I apologize for that. Yeah, it has been a while. Would you ever run for governor? Boy, Louisiana politics, man, that'd be tough. I'm not corrupt enough to do politics. Were you ever hesitant trusting your oxygen mask? No, because I felt cool. Like I looked cool. I felt cool. No, that was the coolest part. I know for some people it is. It's the manifestation of apprehension will definitely show up because you're wearing all that gear, and that's why people puke on their first couple rides because, when they fly, like even if they've flown aerobatics and stuff in other aircraft, they're not used to wearing, the harness, the G suit, helmet, mask, oxygen, all that stuff. So a little different. Okay, good. Glad we're on the same page here, or at least you understand what I'm saying. Found an F-16 manual on this website reported. Don't know if it's safe to read. I think there's a Hellenic Air Force one that's out there, but you should not see a U.S. Air Force one because of ITAR and export control laws. More DCS with the Viper. Well, so somebody had a good idea. We revisited the Viper, which is cool. And I don't know how much of that was my control setup or whatever. I mean, it's just, it doesn't seem a lot different than it used to be. But I'm going to revisit the Hornet as well. So we'll do something like that. Social engineering via media. Too many people don't bother to look past surface level. Yeah, they read the headlines. People just read the headlines. That's it. I'm guilty of that too. Nope. I keep clicking on this. How has writing helped you? It helped me a lot in the past. Lately, I have not felt creative enough. I've been stuck on this book for over a year now, largely because I feel like I spend most of my time fighting for my military career. But I mean, I have a great idea with the sci-fi thing. It's just getting it to paper is tough. But writing in general, especially when I did Spectre Rising and really Avoid, Negotiate, Kill, the second book, it was an outlet. It was a way for me to be creative, which was a stretch belief and a way to compartmentalize and a way to kind of get those feelings out on paper. And, I always thought of it as an interactive video game because you're choosing what the characters are doing. Or in my case, I felt like the characters were choosing and I was just writing it down. So, let's see. What's up? Any tips for tracking fighters? Same thing I already said. When you go to pilot training, the best flight commanders, your IPs and stuff, they'll take note. If you show up prepared, are willing to accept criticism and input, don't argue, and then help your classmates. The TFX, you're talking about the T7 that was just delayed again? If you knew what the last year's been, man, it would be tough for you. It's tough for me to say yes to that. Naval Reserve doesn't ever land on characters. Yeah, carriers, red leather, yellow leather. What happens if they're ever called to war? So, well, now there are no more VFA that I know of. Reserve squadrons. They're all VFC, including now VFC 204. VFA 204, and previously when they would do a carrier qual. Like our squadron did a carrier qual during 2013, but they just said I needed to go to VFA 106 because I was an Air Force guy. So they wouldn't let me bounce. They let me bounce around the field and I did okay. But when it got crowded and they had other guys that were struggling, they said, well, we don't want, it's too much of a liability to have someone that's never bounced at all do it with the squadron for the deck cert, because that's what we're doing, versus go to a dedicated training thing at VFA 106. So that's why I didn't do it. The squadron absolutely could do it, and they would do it if they ever had to go to war because they were strategic reserve. Now they're not that. I mean, there are no more VFA, so that's the end of that. Yeah, sure, I can put it on the list. Greedy Judge style. Eat a moon pie. Quit murdering each other. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it'd be tough. I don't know if I'd do very well. I am on the Twitch. Do you guys want to see iRacing stuff on the Twitch? Let me know. No. 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 No, no, no. No. No, it's not about the money. I fight for my country. That's it. I'm not against Ukraine. I'm not pro anything. I am a servant of my country. So you will not see me flying for any other nation in combat. Are you going to get to DCS? I have no plans to. I mean, not specifically. See, I'm not always busting chops about your cars. My cars are fine. Is the Fight Club quote true about oxygen only being on commercial airplanes because you take panic breaths and becomes as calm as a Hindu cow? No, it's for hypoxia. I hear a lot of conflicting answers on this. I don't know. I mean, the Super Hornets are going to be there for a little while. There's not enough to replace them right now. I think you'll see them for a while. Eventually they'll get rid of the A-10s. It sucks, but they're going to have to. Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Tomcats. So VFA is attack. So they actually are a strategic reserve and can be, now granted, when I flew the A+, the aliens would have to be attacking for us to actually use those in war. But the composite now makes it completely radar. Because VFC is an F5. You're not going to deploy with an F5. So, yeah, that's really the difference. To me, iRacing is more fun because it's more structured. Plus, I like racing. I don't think that's a suitable replacement. That's coin counterinsurgency, but the A-10 does a lot more than just that. Plus, it's a cost thing. The Afghan Air Force is not on the same level as the U.S. Air Force. Yes. Be careful what you wish, young aviators. I lost my love for flying after joining the airlines. 100% yes. 100% yes. It is not flying. Nothing will suck the fun out of what you love, so to speak, more than doing it for money. It's just life. If you want to just enjoy flying, go be a doctor. There's a lot of doctors that do this. Go be a doctor and then buy whatever you want and go fly it. But airline flying in general is not really flying. It's systems management. It's FMC management. It's a totally different world. It is a great job. It is good paying, and you get to see the world, and it's awesome being up front. You see all the clouds and sky and all that stuff, but it's not. There's a reason I still fly the helicopter, because the helicopter is pure flying to me. You're not constrained by the schedule, or here's where I have to go, or here's what I have to go do. You're just doing whatever you want. It's the freedom of flying. The freedom of flying comes from money and just being able to do whatever you want. What did you think of the NASCAR fight last weekend? Is that really even a fight? Dude punches him. I don't particularly care for either driver, so whatever. Depends on what I'm doing. The Hornet was great, especially for BFM. Viper was awesome too. I mean, I loved them both. Dogs have been struggling. It's been rough with the doggies. Sniper, obviously, we 2 years ago we had that tumor removed. The cancer is now back. He's on chemo, probably for the rest of his life at home. But he's doing okay. His quality of life is good right now. Kaiser is deteriorating at an unfortunate pace. He's got a lumbosacral degenerative disease, and so he's losing function of his back legs, and it's just tough to see. I think I'm spending all the time I can with him right now. Yeah, you could go A6 bomb Hanoi downtown. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. No, I have not. I mean, it's been 10 years since I've done the Krav because I moved here and there is a place that does it, but I haven't been able to do it. I've seen people with that. I mean, it's about GPA. If you have a decent GPA in it, you've got a good shot. Yeah, I don't know about all that. Yes, it's a cool helicopter. I think it's an X-plane, right? There's really no good Air Force movie. Transformers was really cool. Gives you the hair standing up on the back of your neck when they do the AWAC stuff and they bring in the A-10s and stuff. But yeah, it's tough because there's a lot of political stuff to that. So I really just try to stay out of it. The manual was published by Greece, and it's about the Block 5052. They're just different. FMS is different. That's all. They're just not the same. Like, as someone who's flown them, you look at them and go, this feels different. Can you become a test pilot? Yes, you can become a test pilot from the Guard. Hey, Tim. Hey, Mover, I've been over on the Twitter feed, but maybe you don't see the chat. Yeah, haven't seen the chat from Twitter, so maybe it doesn't allow it. So I apologize to those of you watching on the Twitter. I did have the iRacing League. We did 2 seasons, and then I started racing on my own. Mostly because I can't commit to one night every week or whatever. It's usually just pickup games, and that became the problem. Outside of the U.S., what countries aircraft? I mean, I like a bunch of Russian stuff. I'd fly the Flanker or the MiG-29. I think they have some good equipment. Saab, the Gripen. That'd be really cool. Eurofighter, it's awesome. Rafale. I mean, Mirage 2000. Instructors at what? I guess that's my question, because there's a lot of different instruction thing. I am not currently back, but that's not to say it's out of the question in the near future. I recall seeing a poll study several years ago showing that members of the Air Force were significantly more willing to fire on Americans than other branches. I don't think that's true. That sounds like it's made up. It goes back to my original point where people believe anything that's on the internet. Yeah. You're never a former fighter pilot, by the way. You're always a fighter pilot once you're a fighter pilot. But yeah, you absolutely have NDAs. Why do you think I don't do BVR? Like, I had a comment the other day that said, I want you to fly on Growling Sidewinder's BFM server. And it's like, or BVR server. It's like, absolutely not. 1000% do not want to go to jail. Yeah, dude, that would be awesome. I'd love to do. Call Elon. Tell him I'm ready to go to space. Not Mars, though. I don't like the whole one-way trip thing without the dogs. Sports shooting? No, but I mean, I do go shooting. I'm a gun guy, but I don't just shoot for sport. Usually I just go practice. And then until tomorrow, I'm qualifying my annual qualification with the sheriff's office. I got to shoot my duty weapon, my rifle, and my backup weapon. I mean, yes and no. I mean, there's a lot more freedom, relatively speaking, right? It depends on where you are. If you're out at some podunk field, you've got a lot more freedom than, if you live in the city with a Class Bravo airspace, or, fixed wing versus helicopters. Helicopters have a lot of freedom. You can go land in a field if you want. I guess you can land in a field too, but just don't do any low flyovers because they don't like that. Why aren't you at F1 race? I was not invited to the F1 race. No, I mean, the dude punched him. It was a punch. But, yeah. He is a Belgian Malinois mix. So he's got a lot in him. Yeah, cancer sucks. He's tough, though. He's tougher than I am. That's exactly right. Please more Mover Ruins movies. I'm trying, man. The YouTube comment or the YouTube copyright thing and content ID, it just makes it miserable. I mean, so even though it cleared copyright for that one video, I still have the strike, which means if I re-upload it, because that's the option they're giving me, I get another strike. So then I'll have 2 strikes. It's like, well, then 3 strikes, they delete your account. So, I mean, just the whole thing is dumb. They don't wear it because they put their hand on their thigh, which I never really got, but okay. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. Nothing at all. It's not for me. If I'm going to go down range, it's going to be for my country. Hot Shots is probably the best fighter pilot movie. Maybe so. If one is interested in going to the airlines, do you think it's worth getting your bachelor's degree? Yes. Yeah, I think one of those combined ones, because you need something to fall back on. There are very few jobs that, I mean, yes, the airlines in general are no longer requiring it, but it's nice to have. It's delayed again, so I have no thoughts. No, that's a screen rate thing. That's just the hertz of the refresh rate of the camera versus the refresh rate of the screen. Oh, cool. Tyler, from the email you read, thanks for being positive influence for military aviation. Thanks for watching, man. Thanks for watching. Mover in space. Let's do that. Let's make that a thing. Favorite handgun? I like my 2011. It's really awesome. It's fun to shoot. Shotgun I really don't have, although I want a Benelli. And then rifle, my DDM-4 ISR, which is sitting over there. What happened to the Ghost of Kiev? It was made up, and certain channels ran with it for no reason. It's the exact same training. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you for watching. It's not possible if nobody watches it. I'll tell you that. If DCS is just a game, why can't you do missile stuff? Because so if I go do missile stuff and it is close enough that you can do real tactics with it. And if I go sit there and compare, because that's what it always devolves into, right? Everybody wants to know real versus fake. If I go, hey, a missile won't do this, or hey, this is wrong, I'm now walking into the classified realm. So it's good enough that you can do tactics, but it's still just a game. If you can't log hours with the FAA, it is not, and you can buy it on Steam. It's not a, I mean, it's a video game. I mean, that's bottom line. It's for entertainment. Dry firing is what every instructor recommends. Yes, I am on Rumble, and that's probably where Firefox is going to end up too. Follow me. Everything CW Lemoyne. Twitter, Rumble, Twitch. No, Twitch is Mover CWL. Because I couldn't get CW Lemoyne. I did see that video. Very, very scary. It's one target. So you start out, I mean, the rifle, you start out past 50 yards, but the handgun, you start at 25 yards and you move your way up. Oh, Turkish. Yeah, I don't know about the Turkish 5th gen. Yeah, degree usually doesn't mean much. No, he's got too much arthritis on his front legs. It wouldn't work. Plus, he'd never be able to get in and out of the house. I am not. So that is a false. It's tough. I mean, that's you start to rely on automation. That's tough. Yeah, but Primary Arms is doing qualified individual sales for the Benelli. They're pretty well priced. So I am still working on the sci-fi book. It's different than all the other series that I've done. It's a slow thing because I haven't been all that creative lately. I have done Final Countdown with Gonky. Go check it out. Have not heard of NOR. Oh, there's a letter? Hold on. Old man noises. Was there a letter? Oh, yeah, there is. There's more in here. I am apologizing. Okay. So we've got Radical Squadron Strike Eagle. And a Bandcamp code, strikeeaglesynth.com. I'll check that out. Oh, there is a letter. Oh, okay. It's written like a homeless sign. It says, Mover, thank you for the channel. Your content rekindled my love for military aviation again, and your Mover Ruins Movies episode inspired me to go out and watch some fighter pilot movies I had not seen yet. This then inspired me to write my own 80s fighter pilot movie soundtrack album. In the back of my mind while writing it was always, if Mover did. Mover ruins music. What would he say? Hopefully the lyrics and contact pass the muster. I've included a vinyl of the album for you, as well as a code to download it on Bandcamp, as well as a squadron patch. Thank you for all that you do and for the inspiration. All the best. G-Man, a.k.a. Strike Eagle. Thank you, G-Man. Cool. I have never heard anybody, and thank you for this. I've never heard of anyone else named Mover. Or Gonky, for that matter. How, so Sims, and that was the other part about the, is it a sim versus a game? Even the Sims we use are not that realistic. Like, there's a thing called simisms. You cannot replace the real thing with the simulator. You need to feel everything that the jet's doing. You need to feel that the G-forces, the bumps, the drag, everything, the noises, like stuff that the simulator will never be able to replicate. A lot of it is park task training, switchology, systems, stuff like that. You can get systems really well, right? Like, so if you're practicing for an emergency procedures, or you're practicing for getting a lot of reps using the radar, using stuff like that, really cool. But when it comes to dynamic stuff, there's nothing that really replicates real life. Is there going to be an ARB? Yeah, everything has an AIB. It's a lot like The Expanse, but not. So, kind of delving into some higher concepts. And it's tough because I feel really dumb when I'm doing it. I don't know enough. What Vipers did you fly? I flew block 25, 30, 42. Most of my time's in the block 30 big mouth, although I flew the small mouth as well. Thanks, Strike Eagle. Other than flying, what has been the most fun for you in the military? Hanging out with cool people, the people you meet along the way. You mean like for the other channel? Yeah. That's a lot. I mean, that's a lot of kills in a few days. Yeah. I mean, I think that, people have asked about, well, what happens if you put a sim person in a real jet? How would they do? I don't think people really grasp the sensory overload when you're actually sitting in something versus, you're at your house. I think even if you know what you're doing, the first time you get in something where it could kill you, there's a lot more to it, especially with no training. I mean, that's the assumption, right? In the military, we give you training to get to where you are. So it's not the first time you've seen it. So, for example, yes, your first time in the F-35, you're solo. Okay, no big deal. But before that, you had sims in the T6. You flew the T6. You flew the T-38 after sims in the T-38. You went to IFF. You had sims in the F-35. And then you finally got to it. To say somebody with none of the backstory is just going to hop in and go because they know a sim, well, they never got all that experience with just the basics of being around jets, being, getting in the cockpit, strapping in, wearing all the stuff. It's just different. It's tough to explain. I think it's easy for people to say, oh, well, I could do that. But when your mind realizes that you were actually in this thing that's moving, it's a lot different than when you're just sitting in your living room in your underwear. I've never seen Star Trek Discovery, so probably not. Gotta go. Hope you have a great day. See ya. Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, so yes, that is the plan. But I've been going back and forth between the 7.8 and the 777 because I'm more senior on the 777, which now begs the question: what's the difference? Right? Are the trips better on the 777? Are the trips better on the 787? Which one has the better quality of life? And I don't know the answer to that. So that's what I'm trying to figure out. Speaking of graphic novels, sort of, Gonki's working on a children's book. You heard it here first, boys and girls. Yeah, YouTube ruins movies. I don't know about deer in the headlights, but I think it would be a shock. I think it'd be a tough transition. Skid. Good sim racers usually very good and get up to speed with real cars very fast. Different thing from jets, of course. DCS pilots is not. Yeah. I don't know that I have enough data for that. I can see that depending on what their setups were, but feedback's different. There's a lot. It's different. I mean, a perfect example. When I did Daytona earlier this year, the first time I had ever been in an ARCA car at Daytona was that day. All right, I'd done it in the sim. So while I knew all the line, I knew shift points and how to get up to speed and all that stuff, I'd never done it in real life. And the first time I went into turn 1 and 2, there's that dip and you kind of G up a little bit. That was a shock to me. Like, I was like, holy shit, okay, this is different. There's a lot of forces that I've never felt before because the sim doesn't do that. So I think a place like Daytona, it's easier to overcome, but I think like a place like Bristol or Charlotte, smaller tracks, it would have been a bit of more of a shock the first time because, bigger banking, more G, all that stuff. But in a jet, it's more three-dimensional. Not much, but a little more. And sim pilots are instrument pilots. They're very good at instrument pilots. In fact, that's all they do. When you go talk to somebody, if you go read the forums, that's all they'll ever talk to you about. people throw EM diagrams at me all the time. And to be honest, that's the kind of stuff you'd look at and go, okay, well, where do I compare to this threat aircraft? And that's the last time you'd look at it. You didn't care because you knew the speed you needed to be at, and you knew you could feel the energy of the jet just because you've been doing it for a while. The numbers get you in the ballpark, but at the end of the day, your seat of the pants is what tells you what the aircraft's doing. Same thing in the race car. The speeds and the RPM and brake points and all that stuff you can get in the sim, but I think the faster drivers are the ones that have that seat of the pants, that the car becomes an extension of themselves. Yes, it'll give you the 69% solution, but it won't get you to the 100%. Like a guy like William Byron adapted really well. He started in sims, but he had that other racing background and kind of moved forward because he had the seat of the pants. I think if you don't have that and you're just reliant on visual cues, you lose a lot and you don't necessarily have it. And then that it just depends. If you're used to doing something from the comfort of your home, it's a lot different than actually going out and getting into an airplane or a car or something else. I mean, it's a valid question. I don't think it's bad. Boy, I don't know. Have you ever heard of the Air Force YouTuber Sam Malcolm? I have heard of him. He's public affairs, or he was. So, Gonky inspired by Mace? No, Gonky doesn't know Mace. I have considered that, yeah, but I've heard the bunks are better in the 777. The trips are better. You mean fighter jets? No, other than the fact that there's nobody else with you. It's very nice to just be in a single seat jet. Yeah, Gonky's working on a children's book. What was my favorite Mover Ruins movies? Oof, I don't know. That's a tough one. I don't know. In my opinion, DCS is good to enhance your learning. It's not good enough on its own. Actual flying time. And that's how sims are. Sims are not meant to be replacements. And a lot of people have tried at their own peril or their career's own peril to replace actual cockpit time with sim time because it's cheaper. And the product has not been as good. Yeah, I mean, it could be. I think it's harder, and I will say this for both racing and for flying. I think it's harder to take somebody who's been doing one thing their entire life and put them in a sim than it is to go the other way. Because I see this when I do racing and I see this when I do DCS. You get so used to the seat of the pants cues and the feel cues that when they're not there, you feel you miss out because you're not used to looking at what the sim people are looking like. I have flown with Raymond's a great example. Raymond is very good at, hey, I'm going to hit this corner speed and fly this and be at this rate and fly very well. He's very good. But that's because he's used to those cues. Like I am used to pulling to, hey, I feel this G-suit inflation. I know what my body feels and that's about right. The old joke used to be in the Viper, pull till you can't see anymore and let off. And then the ATAX came out and that was not valid anymore. But there is some method to, I'm going to pull the G-suit inflation because that's 4 Gs, right? That's about 4 to 4.5 Gs. And then the cues you get are telling you where you are. So you don't have to look back in the cockpit. Like I can spend the whole time doing this because I know what the jet's doing. Versus in a sim, you have to constantly cross-check and stuff. And then there's some people that use track IR that pretty much need an exorcist because their head turns 180 degrees behind them. And well, I mean, you can't do that in real life. Yeah, sims are harder. And the same thing with iRacing. I mean, you lose that seat of the pants, the grip, and what the car is doing. I would be more likely to push a car hard in real life than I would be in a sim because I can feel when the grip's slipping. And I do have a complaint about iRacing is I think the tire models are still not right. I think when it loses grip, when it's loose, what happens when the tires are cold and stuff. I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done because they act like slicks have no grip, coming out the gate, which is not true. I mean, it's a gradual thing, and I think they just haven't gotten that right yet. Yeah, an airline has more thrust than a fighter jet because of thrust to weight. I mean, bottom line, you're moving way more weight than you are in a fighter. I talk about what I know. I mean, I talk about what I know and what I can talk about. So there's no reason for me to talk about foreign fighter jets. Oh, thanks. Well, it's been a while, so maybe I just take time off and come back. Yeah, Gonki's been getting it back into it. Most of these jets, it would be clean. I still think you need real track time to get better at racing than what a sim can do. You got to be able to feel everything, like you said. Yeah, there's no replacement for being that. As a sim racer, so about 2003, iRacing actually based on in our 2003. I did several Team Texas stock car drives, and they took off the limiter because I was up to speed so quickly. Yeah, I think it gives you a better learning curve. Absolutely. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying to maximize your performance, you have to incorporate all those senses as well. You don't have responsibility in a sim, and that's my biggest complaint with iRacing is the safety rating system is flawed. I mean, it's absolutely flawed for, stock cars. Like, I think it's made more for road courses. But second, people do things in sims that they would never do in real life. And same thing with DCS. People will do things in DCS that they would not even try in real life because of self-preservation. Yep. If you could rewrite one book you've done, which one would it be? Oh, man, one of the first two. Spectre Rising or Avoid, Negotiate, Kill. C-57, I did a whole video on it. I mean, until they're widely produced, it's kind of, who cares? What do you think about sims as a way to practice other things like TOT, comms? Absolutely. Wingman lead dynamics, not really. Wingman lead employment, yes. And, four-ship tactics, that kind of thing, getting a lot of reps. Because you think about, when we set up a 4VX, 4V12, 4V16, it takes time, you don't get a lot of reps. But with a sim, you can just bam, bam, do it. You can picture clean, okay, reset, picture clean, okay, reset. So the sim has a lot of value, and the sim does a lot of cool things. It's just not a one-for-one replacement. That kind of thing, absolutely. Even bombing. I mean, giving you the picture and the switchology. It's very good for switchology and learning systems. And I spent a lot of time in the sim for that very reason. I try. I mean, people have said that I don't, and sometimes I miss it. So I apologize if I do. Would you say you're against sims or for sims? No, I'm not against sims. I think they have their place. I think they're very good for certain things. I just don't think they're a replacement for anything. Agree 100%. Putting a real driver in a sim removes feel and critical feedback. Going the other way, you gain feel. Exactly. I mean, perfect. Well, I mean, it's what's more important, a video game or, not revealing secrets to our enemies, because who's watching, right? The Chinese, the Russians. Yeah, the best part of a sim is we can just respawn instead of going to the emergency room. So instead of getting washed down your last flight, you have some priest come out and start hitting you in the face, holy water, saying the power of Christ compels you. He's talking about the 180-degree track IR thing. I haven't talked to Casbo in a while. I should do some stuff. I should call him. It won't happen. I don't think it's feasible. Who keeps the cockpit cleaner? Air National Guard and Air Force Reserve. I mean, I'm not Navy Reserve. They did a great job and stuff. But if you want an immaculate aircraft, go to a Guard or Reserve unit, because those crew chiefs are, older and they take care. I mean, it's just, you could eat off of a lot of the surfaces because they're so good. That's true. I've not heard of such things. It sounds nonsensical, though. Can you put on something with American flag on your shirt? My red air? You understand what the point of red air is, right? Yes, I have done Immelman, and hammerheads in real life many times. Yeah, probably so. Probably so. I will be sending those back. I apologize for that. It's just a scheduling thing to get to the actual post office. Do you think there are some cheeky Ruskies and Chinese watching, helping this? Absolutely. Absolutely. Boeing likes to just, yeah. I mean, they don't care about, they just want, that's why the 737 cockpit is stuck in 1945. You know, it's not because it's advanced, it's because it's what they can sell and cheaply keep selling. Can a civilian pilot relatively learn to fly fighters? Yeah, you can. Well, so I've said this before, like with Tom Cruise, you can learn to fly fighters. You just won't be a fighter pilot, because being a fighter pilot is number one, a mentality, but number two, it's the kill people, break their things part of stuff. It's the training to BFM, to drop bombs, all that stuff. You can go fly a fighter. I mean, you can buy a P-51, you can buy an L-39, you can buy T-38. You know, it's the other part that makes you a fighter pilot. Last question. Are there fighter pilots who are short like me? Yeah. No, there are. There's short fighter pilots. I have heard about that. So stupid. Yeah. Guess so. Do you think that people who play... No. No. And the reason for that is that you don't know what you don't know. So there's like, this is a common thing in the Marines, right? Show up to boot camp, they go shoot. The guys who came from a farm, who have bad habits, don't do as well as the person that had no training and just did whatever they told them to. Because you told me to, drill sergeant. The problem with DCS is you may develop bad habits, especially if you're, watching videos on the internet to get your tactics. I've seen some very bad things in very popular DCS YouTube channels, stuff that's just wrong. I mean, just flat out, like, the definition of what they're saying is wrong. And you don't want to show up thinking you know everything, and you've got this wrong image versus somebody who just tells you, hey, here's what it is. Okay, thanks. And then you move on. So plus DCS, as far as our training aircraft, you're not going to go to there's no T6, there's no T-38. The F-5 is not a T-38. So, might it give you some better air sense? Maybe, if you don't take it seriously. But if you seriously try to use it to learn, I think you're going to get some bad habits. And you might think that you know more than you do. No, I don't. I mean, I played Call of Duty before, but I haven't played it in like 10 years. Please, more info. I don't know what we're talking about. Yeah, I like movies. I ruin movies all the time. I like Marvel movies too. I don't know about an L-39. Go watch my interview. I did a whole interview about the selection process. In the Navy's Aero AI, which can interpret huge data sets, we should all be reserved as mover, whether we served or not. Loose links. Yeah, exactly. I can't because I don't have sufficient funding. Unless you guys want to go fund it. AKA Kentucky windage. That was a cause for some farmer beatings in basic. Yeah. No. I mean, just in general, I think that, you know, you don't know what you don't know. BFM is a great example. You know, there are certain ways we do things. There's certain ways we train. There's certain ways we build to BFM, and I think that there's a lot of misconceptions in the DCS community about the way jets perform and the way BFM works. So you don't want to do that. Yeah, it's just been tough. You know, it's tough watching Kaiser. Luna's still cute. You know, I did the vlog on the other channel, Life with Mover, with Luna going to the track with me. That was a great trip with her. But it's hard with the boys because it's just it's tough watching them like this. Good morning, gentlemen. The temperature is 69 degrees. Holy shit, it's nappy 91. What? Yeah, I've played both Red Dead Redemption games. I love them. Sims give you somewhat good experience for playing like a Cessna 152. I've done it successfully with CFI, but even the simple, slow C152 made me 90% dumber than the Sims at first. Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot to do that. Nope, still got it. Still got it. I can't get rid of that car. Interview tips, be yourself. You know, there are some interview prep sites like Bogey Dope, stuff like that, but just be yourself. You know, they're looking for the whole person concept. So be respectful, be yourself. Don't talk. I mean, talk, but you know, don't brag a lot or anything like that. Just be humble. All right, we'll do Vincent. We got that. Oh, yes. Good point. Wombat's new book coming out, Vengeance Flight. He's been fighting the DoD with it, but soon it should be out. And once it's out, it's a good book. Plus Treason Flight, it's a really great book. So T.R. Matson. I like my Yukon. Yeah, it's not a Tahoe, it's a Yukon. I love the car. I love it. I mean, the only thing I wish it had a little bit more comfortable seats and adaptive and/or Super Cruise. I don't know why GM doesn't do that. But if GM would like to sponsor me to go race ARCA, please. I would love to be a Chevrolet. I am a Chevrolet fanboy. So, you know, it is what it is. I'm just saying. Not in a military jet, but yes, in civilian world, absolutely. Load shedding in South Africa. That sounds bad. Good luck. Yeah, my patrol unit is a 2015 Tahoe with 146,000 miles, and I love it. I do. I wish the stickers looked a little better, but other than that, it's a good vehicle. All right. Well, that's enough. We've been here for an hour and a half. Never down, never out. I don't know. Maybe. We'll see. But thank you for watching. Thanks for being a part. Thanks for sticking around. I know it hasn't been a lot of content lately, but I'll figure out this thing with the whole copyright strike thing and get that out. Otherwise, you may see me just tell you to go to Rumble and watch it. Love your channel. The messages you can convey to others. Been in your shoes. Have to give you something. Give up something you love is hard, but keep fighting. Thank you, Everyday Carry Hub. Everyday Carry. Speaking of, this is my everyday carry, in case anybody was wondering. My Mass Tac holster. I'll do a review on it on the other channel, but pretty cool. I like the gun people. And from the Twitch, the Indian Navy says hello. All right. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Check out the helicopter video when it comes out, because it'll be fun. And yeah, see you next time. Hasta pasta.